Pacific Indians Chatter. We are back again. Your one-stop shop for all things Merrimack Valley Pacific High School and Riverbend Athletics. Let's jump right in. We had a busy week this week. Let's go to the Riverbend Roundup. Out at Riverbend, the 7th and 8th grade boys football teams both had games on Wednesday night this week, and you'll find out why that was later in the show when we get to the high school. Unfortunately, the Indians dropped both those games, and they are looking forward to bounce back this week. That was their last home game. They wrapped up their home season, and with a few more to play on the road. On to the basketball side of things. The Lady Indians on the basketball court played 2 games this week, St. Clair on Tuesday and Union on Monday. In the Union game, the 7th grade team won 18-7 and was led in scoring by Carly Wingler. In the 8th grade game, the Indians came out on top in a tight one, 18-14. The Lady Indians were led that night by Emma Vondere with 7 points, including 2 big free throws at the end to ice the game. Sam Hernandez chipped in with 5 and Aubrey Davis with 4. The next night, the Indians traveled again on the road to St. Clair to play the Bulldogs. The 7th grade team lost 18-13 in overtime in a very tough game. It's kind of back and forth. 7th grade had a lead, and then St. Clair was able to chip away and force overtime. And unfortunately, the Indians came up on the wrong side of that one, 18-13. In the 8th grade game, the Lady Indians won 32-17 and were led by Emma Vondere with 18 points. And Aubrey Davis had 6 for the Indians as the 8th graders went to 2-0 on the week. This upcoming week is tournament week for the Lady Indians at Riverbend. 7th grade is at the St. Clair tournament, and the 8th grade is at the Washington tournament. So we will have hopefully a lot of games for you this week from Riverbend girls basketball. Cross country did not participate in any meets this week. So that will conclude our Riverbend Roundup. Now it's time to head up the street to 425 Indian Warpath Drive to discuss some high school athletics for the week. On the high school side of things, cross country had a big meet today, as Saturday as we're recording this. We're going to catch up real quick on what they did. It was the Gans Creek Classic, so it's a lot of teams up there. Our girls team placed 12th out of 29 teams in the blue division. Ben Smith took 17th place. On the individual side, Dixie Mayfield took 7th place, and Sarah Halcomb 17th place in the JV girls division. All in all, that's a big event. I talked to some of the runners that this is one of the bigger events they go to. There's several teams everywhere. There's 29 teams in the blue division, and there was also a gold division, so there's roughly 50-plus teams at this event. And the Indians had a very good showing at the Gans Creek Invitational. They have a busy week this week on the cross-country side of things as well. Let's jump to volleyball. Volleyball, all I have on volleyball is they played Union at Union, and they were also at Owensville this week. And the Lady Indians varsity came out on top in both of those matches. The Indians will have New Haven next week. I believe they're in the Herman tournament. Sorry, they open with New Haven. And they also have St. Louis Panthers and Herman next week in the Herman tournament. Their season kind of starts to wind down with a few more conference games to round out the year. And then it's on the districts. The Lady Indians volleyball will travel to Camdenton, I believe, for their district. So quite a trip for the Lady Indians. Now let's move over to football. Kind of mentioned a little bit at Riverbend. Football played a Thursday night game, which is a little different. We were at home at Pacific. The Indians, unfortunately, dropped this one 22-14 in overtime. The second home game that's gone to overtime this year. On the side of the stats side of things for the Indians, Seth Stack had 9 carries for 28 yards. Colton Kinsu 4 for 10. Brock McKinney 4 for 7 yards. 19 total rushes for the Indians, 57 yards. Had a little trouble getting the running game going. Through the air, Seth Stack was 13 for 22 for 215 yards with 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. And the 1 interception was a hard one to swallow. The receiver fell down and caused the interception a little bit. Nothing you can do there. simply just slipped on the turf. It was kind of a tough break for the Indians there. Parker Thomas had a huge night for the Indians with 6 catches and 154 yards. Brock Webb also had an interception for the Indians, and the Indians recovered 2 fumbles. Leo Fielder and Lucas McKinney were the ones that dive on those. The Indians will go on the road for the next 2 weeks. They will travel to Owensville and then Potosi before returning home for Herman on homecoming. So the Indians look to get going next week with Owensville at Owensville. I think that could be a good game for the Indians to kind of get right. Potosi as well on the road. Maybe pick up 2 big wins on the road before returning home for homecoming as we make this push towards districts. Those of you that don't know, with football, they actually have a scoring system for districts, so they don't have to have a seed meeting and coaches have to kind of argue it out. Based on how the game goes, points scored, this and that, different kind of things, the level of competition, you get points throughout the year, and that is how you're seeded. It'd actually be really interesting to see if they're able to do this possibly for other sports. Sports that have comparable amount of games schedule-wise. Basketball would probably be the next most logical one for them to try to add this in, as most teams play anywhere from 23 to 26 games in the regular season, which is the max. Other sports like soccer and baseball, with rain and other things like that, it's kind of hard because some teams might play 22 baseball and softball games. Some other teams might play 35. So I'm not quite sure how it would work in those kind of sports, but I do think basketball is the next logical one for them to try this in. I'm sure it'll be coming in a few years. And I kind of welcome it because the seed meetings, as some of you know, it's a lot of debate, a lot of arguing. That's not the perfect system. It's the only way. It's the best way we can do it as of now. But potentially having a formula that does it all for you, it just is what it is. And that's how it is for football. Checking in on football's district standings currently, the Indians sit in 7th place in their district, which would mean they would be on the road for their district game as of now. But we have 4 more weeks to go. So it can obviously change the scoring and all that depending on how the Indians finish the season. Moving on over to soccer. They had 1 game rained out with Warrenton this week, but they did play against a DeSoto team. They made the trip to DeSoto on Thursday night. Thursday night was busy with football, soccer, volleyball, softball, all playing at the same time. The Indians did pick up a big 5-0 win over DeSoto. Gage Clark had 2 goals, Lucas Tennyson had 2, and Stephen Rinke chipped into the other one. Ian Goodwin on the night, 13 saves and another shutout for Ian. The Indians sit at 9-0 with Washington coming to town at St. Charles West next week. So 9-0 is now currently the best start to a soccer season on the boys' side of things in program history, with some big games coming this week for the Indians. On to softball. The Lady Indians had 2 games this week on the softball field. And let's start with the JV. They had just 1 game. They played against St. Clair on Friday night, and they played first because that was senior night. And the JV Lady Indians picked up their first win of the year with a big win over St. Clair, 7-6. Running through the stats real quickly. Kendall Armistead had 1 hit and drove in a run. Scarlett White had a hit and drove in 2 runs. Reagan Kennedy drove in a run, and Clara Welker also was credited with an RBI. On the mound for the Indians, picking up the win was Kayla Swinford. 3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 6 runs, 6 earned, 7 walks, 3 strikeouts. I believe this is Kayla's first year pitching, and I think she's just thrown in a couple games recently. So as we keep watching, we see the numbers improving, and she picked up her first win for the JV Indians. On to the varsity side of things. The Indians traveled to Herman on Thursday night. They unfortunately dropped that game 13-12. For the Indians, the big nights, Kayla Swinford was 3 for 3 with an RBI and 3 runs scored. Ayla Shapinski had 2 RBIs and a base hit. Ellie Groom had a hit with an RBI. Ashlyn Young was back in the lineup with 2 hits for the Indians. Peyton McFarland had 2 hits. And on the mound for the Indians, Mila Miller threw the first 6 innings, giving up 11 hits, 10 runs, 8 earned, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Then Ayla Shapinski came on for 2/3 of an inning, gave up 3 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, with 1 walk. 12-10 going into the 7th, and unfortunately dropped it. It looks like I was watching on Game Changer during the football game. Some defensive issues kind of maybe hurt the Indians in that one a little bit. But the next night for senior night, the Lady Indians were able to bounce back with a big 18-8 win over the St. Clair Bulldogs. Senior night for the softball team, they were able to honor Carissa Reese, Peyton McFarland, Ellie Groom, and McKenna Lay, their 4 seniors. For the Indians on the offensive side of things, Ayla Shapinski was 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs. Kayla Swinford with 1 hit, but 3 RBIs in that. Ellie Groom was 2 for 4. McKenna Lay was 2 for 3. Ashlyn Young with 1 hit. Peyton McFarland had a hit on senior night. Avery Thomas chipped in a hit. Carissa Reese 3 for 3 for that senior on senior night. And Avery Meyer with a hit as well. Everybody in the starting lineup for the Indians had a hit in that game. On the mound for the Indians, senior Peyton McFarland got the win. 5 innings pitched, 6 hits, 8 runs, 7 earned, 5 walks, 3 strikeouts. The Indians are getting kind of close to the end of their season. Softball season wraps up first. They have a big home game Tuesday with the Union Wildcats. And then also Windsor comes to town on Thursday. Like I said, then after that, it's pretty much their last kind of couple games after that. And I think it's October 16th, 17th is districts. So middle of October for districts for the Lady Indians softball. So, with that being said, I think it is now time for everybody's favorite segment, Performance of the Week. This week's Performance of the Week. There are several contenders. You had all the seniors with senior night this week for football, and cross country was honored at the game as well with band and cheer, and softball had their senior night. That's one way we could go. Parker Thomas had a good night for the football team with the 6 catches, 100-plus yards. But for me, and somebody could say it's biased, but you can say that, but it is my show. So I'm going to go with Emma Vonderay for the Lady Indians with 18 points against St. Clair on Tuesday night is my Performance of the Week. Emma is the team captain for the 8th grade Lady Indians and led them in scoring in both games this week. And we look to keep things rolling next week at the Washington tournament. So great job, Emma, and the team as a whole. And that is my Performance of the Week. Before we wrap things up, I would like to just kind of thank the seniors. We honored them the other night for their senior night. I know I was speaking kind of on behalf of coaches. We really appreciate all the work the seniors have done for us over the 4 years in and out of different programs. So it's always great to get a chance to honor those seniors. And I wish them luck in their next sports they may have or in their future. So it's senior night, great way to honor those kids. We will have homecoming coming up next as our next home football game, and that will be a busy week in a few weeks. We will have the Hall of Fame class for this year. We will go over that potentially next week and maybe start to have a few of those members that are going in join us, kind of talk about what it means to them to be going into the Pacific Hall of Fame and other things like that. With that being said, this week's show, as we come to a close, it's a busy week next week in Pacific. A lot of events going on. If you're looking for something to do, make your way up to the high school. Several home games this week. Softball, I know, is home twice. I believe volleyball is in the Herman tournament, so they will not be home. But I think they have something coming up soon with a lot of home games. Soccer has a big week. Washington comes to town. They have St. Charles West. Lots of events going on. Check the calendar on the school website and get out and support the Indians. But until next time, keep up the chatter.